Are you a believer in order
Order?
over landscape?
Well, I admire it.
This abundance of chaos. This is your Eden?
My search for it?
Your second film as a director. What makes you want to direct? What aspects of directing really attract you or give you pleasure?
I'm not sure that it's a conscious activity. It becomes it because it has to, because you've got all these people staring at you looking for answers or an opinion or staring at their watches. Once you've said yes, I suppose what you're asking is what makes you say yes, and that's an instinct or a compulsion or something, and I suppose that has, at this point in my life, to do with having spent 5 years at art school and then being a designer and then training as an actor and then directing in the theatre, and then from this point, with a kind of hindsight, I think I was saying to you earlier, or saying to somebody earlier on today, everybody's pushed into making decisions about what they're going to be at 16 or 18, and I didn't go to drama school until I was 25, and yeah, it's been 17 years between two films, so I'm still trying to figure myself out here. But you read a script and images start jumping around, and that either means you want to, or words, you want to speak them, means you either want to act it or direct it. In this case, this script arrived quite a long time ago from Alison Deegan, who's the real hero of the actual script. And it was 180 pages thumped through my letterbox. And she won't mind me saying she's severely dyslexic. So it was 180 pages of no punctuation except commas. And the commas were like every 3 words. But I could tell pretty quickly that she had a wonderful ear for dialogue and an extraordinarily fresh take on a story. And I had no notion or particular interest in making a film about this period. It was just about this relationship.
So what did you then do with that script? What did you bring to it? Because you're one of the 3 credited writers as well.
I mean, if Alison made the bricks, then Jeremy and I were in there with a trowel and cement and cutting the bricks in half and changing the angle of the wall or something. Yeah, structural as much as anything. Or why don't you write a scene about this? Or in the first script, I think the very first scene said, "We travel down the banks of the Seine. Hundreds of ships are loading and unloading." Stuff like that.
How much of the appeal of the project, in a strange way, it's a period film, but it sort of doesn't feel like it's a period film?
Good.
How does that come about?
I said to Joan, well, because of the way they speak, it's got a kind of heightened quality, but at the same time, I hope it feels like it's happening now. I mean, when Kate saw it the first time, she said, "Wow, I sound like me," which I think she's not used to sounding like. So I took that as a compliment, and also working with Joan, who I'd worked with before on The Winter Guest, the costume designer, I said they really need to be clothes, not costumes. And Ivana, who did the hair, said, "I don't want to feel that anybody's just come out of the hair and makeup van, so it should feel lived in."
It does. And how important as well, or how much of an attraction was it? It's a story that still resonates about a woman trying to break through barriers and being told that this is not the world for you, and kind of somehow getting a wedge in there and changing things. I mean, is that a part of its appeal? A big part of its appeal?
Well, it was certainly, huge appeal to Kate to play it.
But for you as a storyteller, is that?
Yeah, and I'm proud of the fact that when men watch the film, I mean, possibly present company accepted, but I think they're quietly moved by their responsibility in these situations and how society orders it so that, you know, you've got a Louis and a bunch of guys who just sort of stand there. And women who have to kind of fall to the floor. And as soon as they start to get older or fatter or whatever, out next.
Bring on the next one. Yeah.
And I think it's fine writing when Sabine teaches Louis XIV a lesson, and it's done largely in silence, I think.
In terms of casting, was Kate Winslet in your head immediately, thinking this is
well,
this
when
is
I
good
first
for her?
started working on it with Alison, she was too young.
Oh, right.
So, you know, she had, in a way, the film was waiting for her to be 35, 36. She had to be of an age where you could believe she would be a professional woman and have had a 6-year-old daughter.
So it's been a while then to get.
The first time I read it, she was, but a thing called Harry Potter got in the way, and I couldn't direct a movie until that was finished.
Okay. And almost 20 years since you had worked with her as fellow actors. How had she changed? How had you changed?
Well, you'd better ask her that, but the good news is that with everything that's happened to her in her work and her life, essentially she's still a great human being, and the great gift that she is to a director is that her listening with other actors is so powerful that you, when you're in the editing room, you can use so much of her when she's not saying anything. And you've got a character who is learning about herself as the story goes on, then you need all those silent moments and not judging other actors and listening for the first time and not pushing it. You know, she's very, very, very professional, but she's also very, very open.
In terms of casting, I mean, I think it is beautifully cast throughout. And one of the things, Matthias, from films that I've mostly seen him in the past, has kind of been this brute force physical presence. And here he seems, in a way, completely cast against that type in the most successful way. So again, how did you choose him, or what qualities did you see in him that maybe we hadn't seen before?
As you can imagine, it's a difficult part to cast, and again, fate took a hand because I had seen Rust and Bone and thought, well, he's great, but I bet he's not a bundle of laughs. And I happened to be filming in Brussels, and he's Belgian, and I said, could I meet him? And he was in Antwerp, so it was half an hour away. And he came into the hotel with the biggest smile, and so you knew immediately you were with a human being. And he was with his mother. And I thought, well, that's brave. What judgment do you think I'm going to make of you coming to meet me with your mum? But actually, his mother turns out to be the woman who translates Beckett for all of Belgium and Holland. So, you know, and his dad was a very famous Belgian actor. Okay. So he would join the club of which I'm a paid-up member of, Don't Typecast People.
Yes, I thought there might be an aspect of that in there somewhere. How difficult is it to direct yourself as well? And I'm kind of suspecting that was a reassuring element for the money people, perhaps.
It's the only reason I did it, because I was forced.
Yeah.
it's total economics and not. I don't know how people do it. I mean, I think it's a ridiculous thing to try to do and impossible, really.
But you did it.
Because I had to.
But how do you judge that? Is there not a tendency to maybe, I'll just pop in front of the camera and do my bit and then I can get on with everything else I need to do? How do you give yourself?
Actually,
all right. How do you give yourself the time and the space?
Well, somebody, I forget
required?
who it was. It might even have been Stanley, but I talked to, because he's directed movies, and somebody did warn me. They said the danger when you're in a film that you're directing is that you're embarrassed to give yourself too many takes, and so it wasn't a case of that particularly. Two things were in my favor. One, he's not in it that much, and two, Louis XIV doesn't go anywhere. People come to him. So he's a fixed point. So that I knew there wasn't too much blocking involved. You know, he stands here, he sits there. So that helped. And I had a very, very close working relationship with, as you can imagine, with Ellen Kuras, the DP, and we would travel into the set together, and we talked in great detail about the shots, and she was kind of second eye for me.
It's a slightly silly question, then we'll get on to some others. But in many respects, did you know what you were letting yourself in for? Because it seems like choosing this project on this timescale, on this budget, there was so much that you had to do. And in terms of tough days, long shoots, it's public knowledge, so a lead actress who announced to you fairly early on that she was expecting a child. What was the toughest day on the shoot, with weather and mud and elements and period and all those things?
I don't know which was the toughest. I mean, they all kind of mount up, but you're having a great time too.
Okay.
You know, when you're making the film, the pressure is there, the lack of money is there, the time, there's a lot of spears coming at you, but you're also having a great time because you're surrounded. The good thing about making a movie is you're surrounded by experts and huge support, and everybody wants it to work, and so that's an immense kind of cushion. Then there are the things you can't predict, like, you know, we are on a limited budget, and on one particular day it was absolutely pouring with rain and it wasn't going to stop, and we had to shoot outside, and it was a scene with me in. And what were we going to do? Because if Louis XIV looked out the window and it was pouring with rain, he'd say, "I'm not going out there." And it was the scene where he comes to the rockwork grove and says, "Well, this is just a pile of mud." Unfortunately, one of the great experts I had on the set was James Merrifield, and the production designer. And we're thinking, well, what on earth can we shoot? Because we can't put him out in the pouring rain. And he said, well, I made this nasty little canvas cover for the workman with holes in it, and we could put that over Louis. And so that's what you see in the movie, is all these poor people drowning, holding up the 4 poles, and I'm under it staying sort of dry. And we shot the scene in real rain.
The magic of the movies, that's what that is.
Although the elements may treat us cruelly, in the end we have only our instincts. Patience, care, and a little warmth from the sun.
I would remind you that A Little Chaos from the lovely Lionsgate opens on April the 17th in the UK. Spread the word, tell your friends, go and see it a second time. Make sure it's the success it deserves to be, and please join me in thanking the wonderful Mr. Alan Rickman.